Hi,
Hi, Edward.
how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. How
Well,
about you?
I'm doing just fine. Today was the last day of school before holiday, and so I'm happy
Okay.
to be home.
Yeah,
And and maybe I could just relax for a couple of weeks.
I know. I'm sure everybody is just really so ready for a break and a rest.
Yes, yes. So you've been did you get any feedback back from Laurent? Are you gonna talk? I can wait, let you talk about it then. You don't have to say it twice.
Okay. Yeah,
Well,
I've got lots of notes. I'm going to try to bring everybody up to speed.
I dropped the posters off at the Sir Speedy. I'll pick them up. So they'll let me know when they're ready. And then,
Great.
so
Thank you. Thanks
then
for that.
I'll take them down to Max's office where they store stuff.
Perfect. All right. Thank you. That sounds great. I will tell you, I'll follow up with you separately. I did have a meeting with Florent today, and he is asking if we might be able to re redo the letter to include the name of a third person who would like to travel for that visit. I knew about the possibility of this third person, but I wasn't sure that it was really firm. And this is a person who's associated with the rectorate, and so I assumed that that person wouldn't be subject to the mayor or the municipal council's approval. But Florent tells me that the letter really should reflect the name of that individual. So I've got to go back and just add a sentence in about that. And that
But
means I would have to send
that's
it to
not a
you
problem.
again.
Then that's where it's always been. When it came back years ago, we had one person from the rectorate and we had other from the city. But once again, there's a little bit of I would say, competition between the two organizations
Mhm.
because one doesn't report to the other. So yeah, it's nice to make sure that everybody's included in that. That's what I did before.
So be on the lookout because I may just have to send that letter back to you for your auto signature again.
That's not a problem. I was very glad. Just let me know when.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. Whew. I'm ready for a break too.
Well, yes, we've been at it constantly, and um,
Hi, Casey.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Okay. Yeah.
Good. I think I'd like to wait another minute or two in hopes that Claire and Kimberly can sign on before we officially start. Is that okay?
yes, of course.
Are
Whatever
you
you
with
wish.
us, Max?
I am. I'm here.
Excellent.
I've got one thing I need to take care of. It'll take me less than 5 minutes, so I'm just going to mute myself and keep my camera off for a little while longer.
Okay, no problem.
Hello,
Hi,
Claire.
this is Claire. I tried to join on the phone, but it wouldn't let me speak. So I'm here now.
Well,
And I'll
whatever.
be taking notes, although I have to be in transit for a little bit. So hopefully they'll be good.
Okay, all right. So we can hear you, but we can't see you. You know that.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you, Claire. I'm just going to wait maybe just 30 seconds longer to see if Kimberly can join, and if not, we'll get started. Oh, she's okay. Kimberly has texted me to say she may be a few minutes late to the meeting, so I think I'll just go ahead and get started.
Sounds good to me.
Great. So I'm just going to note that I'm officially opening the Besancon committee meeting at 5:02. I want to thank all of you for agreeing to be on the Besancon committee. I'm so grateful and for your interest. And I hope that the main focus of our agenda tonight is going to give us something really enjoyable to work on together. I thought I would try to screen share. Okay, I'd like to share the screen, the agenda. Let me see, it's right here. Nope. Bear with me for a minute while I find that. Okay. Can everybody see the agenda?
Yes,
Great. All right. So what I'm hoping we'll be able to do tonight, I wanted to take a few minutes at the very beginning just to bring everybody up to speed on the things that are actually in process related to our Besancon sister city projects. Really quickly go over those. But the main focus for tonight is to talk about this anticipated sort of mini delegation visit for April 2024 and to begin the planning process for that. And the good thing is there are already actually a few things kind of in process of being planning, which I look forward to sharing with you. And we'll get as far as we can get tonight, and hopefully we'll be able to set up some subsequent committee meetings between now and the actual delegation visit to be able to continue to put things in place and develop a really nice itinerary and make sure that's going to be successful. So really quick review of the current Besancon Sister City projects. We have 2 grants right now that focus on Besancon. One is called Sister Revolutions, and it is a grant that the grantee is a historian at the University of Virginia who visited Besancon this past summer for the purposes of interviewing a variety of people to explore the shared experience of revolution, American Revolution, as it affected Charlottesville, French Revolution as it affected Besançon. And he visited with his co-producer from WTJU, a woman named Sage Tanguy. And together they compiled hours and hours and hours of interviews in order to create a podcast, a multi-episode podcast exploring the shared history and the relationship and kind of how even people in both communities now think about the revolutions that their countries experienced. The editing is in process for that podcast. And as episodes are completed, my understanding is they're going to go ahead and sort of be released. But we're hoping that there will be a specific event that will happen in the spring. The second grant is a musical exchange grant, and that is the grantee is Daniel Sender, who is with the music department at UVA, and who has proposed to go to Besançon and work with youth musicians because that's an area of passion of his. He will be offering master classes through a particular musical school in Besançon. He'll also be offering 2 free concerts to the Besançon community. And that grant, as you know, has been deferred to May of 2024, but it is well underway.
now I'll stop you for a second because we have suspended all grants until July 1st of 2024. And specifically his grant, which we wanted him to reapply for, but he cannot reapply till after the new grant cycle starts in July of 2024.
Okay, so I think maybe we'll have to have a separate conversation offline about that.
Very well, we will.
Okay, so I just want to be able to get through the agenda for tonight. But thank you for pointing that out to me. And obviously we need to talk about that quite quickly because
Okay.
he is actually in the process of making his arrangements. Then we have a delegation of students from the Lycée Pasteur coming to Charlottesville in February, the 11th through the 18th. And they will be visiting and staying with host families in Charlottesville High School. We also have been contacted and I've had a preliminary conversation with the director of a gospel choir in Besançon about the possibility of a gospel choir exchange to occur in 2025 and 26. And then last but not least, we have visitors from Besançon who are making plans at this point to come and visit their sister city in April. So let me tell you what we already know about that sister city visit. And there are still lots of moving parts and pieces, and there are some things that have not yet been set in stone. But we do have the names of 3 visitors who will be joining us. One is the Director of International Relations for the city of Besançon. So he is in charge of all of their sister city programs. He is the administrator that oversees those programs. The second visitor will be a deputy mayor. And she is the deputy mayor who is in charge of international relations for the city of Besançon. And Edward and Kimberly and I met both of these individuals when we visited Besançon last April. So we have already begun to develop working relationships with them, and they will both be coming. And the third visitor who would like to join that little mini delegation is the director of the Académie Française of Besançon. And he is, he's part of what's called the rectorat, which essentially is sort of the correlate to the, sort of the superintendent or the Department of Education. And he specifically wants to come with this delegation because Besançon is investigating the possibility of creating at the primary school level something that they call an international, it's basically an international class or course, and they specifically would like to create one that focuses on teaching elementary school students about US culture and history, as well as language. And they have reached out to us as their primary contact in the United States because we are their American sister city. And so this individual who wants to come is hoping that he'll have an opportunity to talk with us and perhaps also to meet some of his sort of cohorts inside our education system while he's here. There will need to be further conversation specifically about that. And I can't, so I just want to make a note of that and say, we'll need to talk further about how that really can actually go. And I will look to the 2 of you who work inside the school system to really provide advice and guidance on that. As I'm learning more and more about this program and learning more and more about what his particular interests and hopes are for setting up meetings. So Edward and Casey, you can
actually, Allison is your number 1 contact for that.
Yeah, and she'd be the other contact on the commission for sure. So
Yeah.
I can't really answer other questions about that at the moment, but I just wanted you to know that there'll be a delegation of 3. So the dates that have been proposed are arrival on Friday, April 12th, and a departure on either Wednesday, April 17th, or Thursday, April 18th. Excuse me. Really quickly, just a couple of words about sort of the expectations, how we're talking about what this visit is. It is not an official mayoral delegation visit. It is really a first visit for these sister city contacts who are new to the sister city program because they took their posts or became responsible for the sister city and the international relations programs when the new mayor took office in 2020. So it's really a first visit for them and they have been trying to visit sort of consistently with all of their sister cities as they can. It is being promoted in Besançon as an opportunity to mark the 20th anniversary of the signing of our Proclamation of Friendship, which was, as you know, the first step on the road to becoming official sister cities. And we hope, and they I've already discussed this with my counterpart, Florent Verguet, who will be one of the visitors. We hope that this might be the prelude to a larger, perhaps more official, perhaps mayoral delegation exchanges in 2024, which will be the 20th anniversary of the establishment of our sister city. So nobody's making any promises about that, but that is, I think, a natural way to be thinking about this. And finally, in terms of sort of the vision for what this visit will include, I would submit to you that it makes sense for it to be a combination of events and activities, something specifically at UVA. There will be a concert while the visitors are here. Some official Sister City Commission reception that I believe can also be a meet and greet with the City Council and the Mayor of Charlottesville. Some requested tours and site visits. An event that we hope is going to be related to one of the grants, the Sister Revolutions grant, some dinners and meals, some meetings, some, time on their own. So it's really, I'm hoping that what we can create is kind of a nice selection of events and activities throughout the duration of the visit. Okay. One of the nice things about this, one of the really exciting things about this is that there are already a couple of events that are in the process of being planned. And those happen to be events that are connected to the 2 grants that were awarded in 2023. And so what's great is that both of those grantees are now already involved in an event or an activity that's timed to occur when our Besancon delegation is here, so that it not only highlights the sister city relationship, but it also highlights those projects. So the first of those is the Sister Revolutions podcast launch. And Ben Bernard is spearheading that and has been communicating with me about the contacts that he's making at UVA. The idea that's under discussion for that right now is that it would be an event that is on UVA grounds, that is meant to include the academic community, because the podcast is really targeted to students and to the academic community. And so we're looking at creating a special event that would take place on grounds, and Ben is already in the process of talking with potential co-sponsors at UVA to both provide some funding for that and also to be co-sponsors of that event. And I'll share with you in just a little bit, if we have time to do this, share with you just a little bit some possible dates for that. The second is a concert that Daniel Sender, who is the grantee I mentioned a few minutes ago, part of his grant was that he would give a concert that would be free and open to the public in Charlottesville before traveling to Besancon. And the concert that he would give in Charlottesville is the same concert. It's the same program that he has proposed offering in Besancon. It's a concert for violin and piano, and it focuses on and highlights several Besançon-born composers, and includes an original and new arrangement that Daniel has created himself of a piece for violin and piano that was first arranged in the 16th century by one of these Besançon-based composers. So I reached out to Daniel and asked if he would be interested in making sure that his Charlottesville concert coincided with the delegation visit. And he said that he would, and he has already been able to secure a location and a date for that concert. That's on Sunday afternoon, April the 14th. Okay, I'm going to skip over Besancon community presentation for just a minute, but should I stop and see if anybody has any questions
Well,
or?
I do need to comment that we do need to have, as soon as possible, a grants committee meeting with you about Daniel, because it was communicated a couple of months ago that we were going to suspend here till the next cycle. And then we moved the next cycle off to July of 2024. So I don't want to discuss it now, but you, I had assumed that Kim would have communicated with you already after our grants meeting, but nonetheless, we need to have a meeting specifically to discuss the senator family, their concert, and the grant with the grant committee. Okay, so we can see where we are with this, because there was a decision made to postpone the grant program until July of 2024. But there was also a decision made that Daniel's concert, Daniel would have to reapply, which means at this point in time, he does not have a grant.
Okay, well, that has not been communicated to him.
Okay, well, we need to have a separate conversation with the grant committee and with you about that, so we can sort of work this out.
Yeah, I think that would be great and probably should happen as soon as possible.
All right. Is Kimberly joined us yet?
Yeah, I see you. Hi, Kim. Hi, Kimberly.
Hi.
Welcome.
Oh, I've been on the whole time.
Okay, great.
I was just 2 minutes late.
Okay, so, anybody else? Okay, so let me get, can I just continue and then maybe we'll have
Please.
a chance to do some
Please.
discussing. So those are events that are already being planned, already under discussion. And it's pretty exciting to think that one or both of them might happen. But there are gonna obviously need to be any number of additional activities. I want to see if I can share a different document with you now for a few minutes. This is a much bigger, longer document that I created. Let me go find it. Where is it? Okay, now. All right, this is sort of my this is a much expanded agenda. Can everybody see that? Great, okay, good. So, trying to think through about additional activities, I've brainstormed some of the kinds of things that typically happen whenever there are delegation visits. Just to help us begin thinking about what else we think needs to be a part of a 4 or 5 day delegation visit. None of these have been set. None of these are in stone. What I really wanted to do was give you a chance to sort of see what I've been brainstorming. Some of these things are based on things that Florent Werguet has communicated to me that he's interested in, but they're also just a product of me trying to anticipate who might be some of the stakeholders in the community that would like to know about this delegation visit and that might like to be involved in some of the official delegation events. So I just invite you to kind of scroll through with me briefly. And then what I'd really love is I'd love to hear your thoughts about whether this seems like we're on target with the kinds of things that we would want to plan for a delegation visit, or if there are any other kinds of events or kinds of activities that we think would be really important and valuable to include that perhaps I haven't thought of, or that any of you, would want us to also consider. So some of the additional activities, I think probably need to include some kind of official reception. We hope that maybe that might be a meet and greet with city council and the mayor. And Max, I know that the date that would be chosen for that is going to have to work around whenever the city council meeting is, because that is a city council meeting week. And I know that the city council meetings are typically on Monday night. Monday night happens to be April 15th, tax day. So I didn't know if typically the city council would go ahead and meet that night, or if they might meet the following night. Perhaps you can weigh in on that, or you can keep us posted.
Okay. Yeah, I
But
certainly think that April 16th is going to be the better option, but I still have to contact the counselors, or at least the mayor, to find out if he's available.
Great.
Yeah, so if this is going to be a reception, it's not technically a meeting, if all of the counselors were to show up, but either way, I'll get in touch with them, see when they're available, and follow back up with you.
Okay, so I'm open to conversation about how we should conceptualize this. Do we want it to be a reception? Do we want it to just be a meet and greet with the mayor and city councilors, in which case that might take place at a different time of day or in a different location? Or do we want it to be a reception to which we would specifically invite any number of people, but would also be open to the public? Maybe more in line with what we just hosted for Wayway Tenango. So think about that, because I'm open to all of it. But I'm assuming that we will host, as a sister city commission, we'll host some kind of official reception. Yes, did somebody want to say something?
Or, I don't mean to interrupt. I think that the arrangement that we use for the Wayway Tenango visit, where the mayor met with Mayor Snook, but all of the invitation was extended to all of the counselors for the meet and greet reception, worked really well.
Okay.
I don't know your thoughts about that, but
Well, so this is a deputy mayor who's going to be coming as part of the delegation, not the mayor herself, but one of her deputies. And so what I could find out is how interested she would be if our mayor would make themselves available, for a one-on-one, just a chance to sort of do that, meet, exchange greetings. I can ask how interested she would be in that. And if it's something that she would really like the opportunity to do, then what you're proposing makes a lot of sense, that perhaps there's an opportunity for one-on-one time with the mayor, and then the city councilors are invited to come to the larger reception. So I do know for sure that Florent Werguet is very interested in going to Monticello. Well, I think they will all be interested in going to Monticello while they're here. A logical day to do that would be if they do in fact arrive on a Friday over the weekend. I do think that the 13th is Thomas Jefferson's birthday. So if I remember that correctly, so Monticello often does special events on that day. So that might be a really great day to go, or it might be a pretty terrible day to go. But at any rate, there's nothing posted on their website yet about any of that. However, I do know there's interest in Monticello. And I know that it would make sense to offer them a tour of Charlottesville and environs, as showing them the points of interest in our city, as well as a guided tour of UVA, which might be part of a day spent at UVA or could happen separately. I also know the Tom Tom Festival is happening that week. And there might be Tom Tom Festival event or lecture that would be of particular interest, or would be an interesting thing to try to get tickets to if our visitors would like to attend that. They're not going to be here long enough to be able to go to see the interactive Sister City exhibition that Sylvia is working on with Alexandria Searles from the Lewis and Clark expedition, because I understood from Sylvia that's going to be on Saturday the 19th. But perhaps Alexandria would be willing to give the visitors a preview of that exhibition if she's working on it. So that's another option for a little bit of an outing. I suspect that it makes a lot of sense to invite the Alliance Française to be a part of events during this delegation visit. And I know that there's interest in going to the Alliance Française, meeting with board members or meeting with Alliance members or meeting with the director. So I've just listed some of the things that I sort of brainstormed as other possible activities and outings. And of course, I think there'll be some meals that we might want to host or that we might want to co-host while the delegation is visiting with us. And then, of course, I think we want to leave them with some open time. So as you kind of are looking through this set, sort of selection of activities, do you have any real thoughts or feedbacks about any of them? Any thoughts or feedback?
Well, from the list, I think all of them are plausible. Obviously, we can't do them all. So I think, quite frankly, that it's a pretty good list. I can't think of anything you don't have up there. So it's a matter of trying to make it the time fit, as well as give them time to be tourists.
Yeah.
I do know that Monticello on the 13th will be quite crowded. It is the middle of the spring break season for the high schools. Charlottesville just comes back to classes on the 15th, and some other counties around the area are just going on their school break. So that's a major weekend right there. But once again, like you said, that could be a good thing. It's not
That could be a good thing. That
Could
could
be a
make
good
it,
thing.
yeah, that could make it more interesting. Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
the rest of it all looks plausible.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any other commentary about sort of the brainstorming of other events? As I was trying to work through this and figure out how many.
Elizabeth, sorry, I have
Yeah.
one thing. It would be good to see if we could put at any time, I mean, I know Seville Weekly and the other Daily Progress haven't been very interested in sister city events recently, but I know that we had some interest from TV and radio. So that might be an interesting option if we could get an TV or radio interview with one of them.
Yep.
So just not to say that we're going to plan that out super far in advance, but if there is an event where we think we could bring TV or radio, and then I could organize something like that and they could be available.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I in a previous iteration of this list, Claire, I had included that, and then I just was feeling like I was overwhelming everybody with words. So I
No.
But I also think there's a possibility that that Sage and Ben are going to want to interview them at WTJU.
Oh yeah, that would be perfect.
Because it's related to the podcast launch.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
I think I think Florent, who is a good English speaker, I cannot speak to the English well, Sadia speaks a little English, but really is not comfortable.
Right.
But Florent he's going to be our spokesperson.
Okay,
I think he's
perfect.
going to be open and very interested. He's very gregarious and loves to meet people. So I think he'd be interested in more than one kind of interview. Okay, great.
Elizabeth,
So,
things that I wanted to note. So in terms of the meet and greet reception,
yeah,
so it looks like city space has already been reserved for April 16th.
okay.
We'll have to look for an alternate venue.
Okay, so would people put their thinking caps on and help me identify what might be some alternative location sites for a reception?
That, and then at the beginning of your meeting, I believe you were discussing the letter that was sent to Florent inviting them to Charlottesville, him and his group to Charlottesville. So I still need a copy. If you're going to revise that letter, I need a copy of that, but I also need a copy of the letter in English.
Yes, I'm working on that. I just haven't finished it yet.
Okay.
But we are going to have to revise that because I was asked today to please include the name of the person from their school system who has now indicated that he would like to join. And so I was asked by Florent if I could revise the letter and resend it so that his name would also be included. So I'm going to have to be working on that this weekend and get it back out to them.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, tasks, I've never done this before. So I'm sort of flying by the seat of my pants, but fortunately there are those of you, I think you probably have been involved with this. And Edward, you just pulled one of these off. So again, I tried to brainstorm what I think might be sort of a task list. And my hope, fellow committee members, is that as you're looking at this and thinking about this, you will indicate to me if there are things that you would be willing to follow up on. I don't think I can pull this off all by myself. So I think I'm gonna need to be able to delegate some things and for us as a committee to be following up on different pieces, but I want those pieces to not overwhelm any individual committee member. And I also want them to be pieces where you feel like you either have a network that you're tapping into or you're comfortable reaching out because of, who you know or where you work. So I did actually start to draft a possible itinerary, which I can send you after the meeting. And you can look over and give me feedback about it. It is just me trying to say what might happen on what dates. But it's, again, there has to be very fluid. But I see that a task list for us is to begin to draft an itinerary with some specific events and times plugged in, but also with some open times, because I believe what's likely to happen is other things might come up or people who find out. Excuse me, does somebody want to say something? No, okay. People, friends of Besancon or Francophiles or Francophones who live in Charlottesville, as they find out, as we reach out to them and they find out about these visitors coming from Besançon, there may be some people who say, I'd really like to invite them for coffee, or I'd really like to help host some kind of a meal or some kind of a meeting. So the idea is to have some open space, also some open space so that if there are things they want to do that haven't been pre-planned, there's room in the itinerary to plug that in, including things like, going shopping or taking a run. So I also am imagining that part of what we need to be doing already now, because this set of dates that have been proposed is exactly 4 months from this week. And so once we all get back after the holidays, and by the time we might be in a position to kind of meet again and get going, it'll be 3 months. So I'm figuring that part of what we probably need to be doing now is going ahead and reaching out and making contacts, city council and mayor's office, to at least alert them, hold the date, or find out, if there are anything's going on. And I know that you're our true resource on that for us, Max. I also was feeling like we probably should reach out to the Alliance Française. And Edward, I specifically wanted to ask you if what you felt might be the most appropriate first contact to make there, whether I should reach out to the board president to let her know this is happening and to see if there's an interest on the part of the board to not just to be invited to events, but maybe to host a meeting or host a luncheon? Or is it more appropriate, do you think, for me to reach out to Muriel first? And Muriel's already gone on vacation for Christmas, so I can't get hold of her until after the holiday. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about that, because you were on that board.
I see Lucy every week, who's the president, because as you know, I just came off the board after I think she has.
And because of the coffee that you do.
And the coffee, so Lucy be there. I think Lucy be the first person to speak to. Once again, as the board president.
Okay. Would you
you,
feel
you can,
comfortable would you feel comfortable making a first contact with Lucy and telling her what we're up to here and,
yeah, I have no problem doing that. I'll be very, very happy to do that.
okay,
And then Lucy will let Muriel know because everything will depend upon the board will have to make a decision as to whether they spend any money, whether they invest in one. So we'll go to Lucy first, and then Lucy will go to Muriel. And
and
so
I would love to sit down and talk with whoever's interested in what they might be interested in and tell them about the other things that are percolating and
I
see what might be a natural way, for the Alliance to plug in.
I think it would be a wonderful idea if you and I sit down with Lucy.
Okay,
Okay, the three of us together and just had an open conversation about things. Lucy was one of the founding members of the Alliance Française 30
Great.
years ago. So
Okay.
she'll be a great person. So I'll set that up if you wish, or you can set it up. I'm pretty flexible.
Okay.
But I
I'll
will
let
broach
you
it.
I'll let you talk to her first informally when you see her next, and then tell me, we reach back out to me, we can come up with some time.
Yes, of course.
I do know, I think you're our contact, you have some kind of in connection with Monticello for tickets too, don't you, Edward?
I've managed to pull it off several times.
Okay.
I think we could try it again.
We're just talking about tickets for 4 people, so that's a
Yes.
very small expense if we had to, but I think it would be really important that we get a French-speaking tour guide and that, there might, that we try to set this up in such a way that it can either be a part of whatever the April 13th celebrations are, or that we can have a private tour, or, something that I think would, make it not special for our delegation
Well,
visitors.
I think that the fact that we're doing this might be of interest to the people out there at Monticello
Mm-hmm.
because of the unique link between Jefferson and Monticello. So
That's right.
I've been in communication back and forth with a executive assistant out there who just confirmed the tickets for us for the exchange. And so she and I are going to be talking again tomorrow. And then I will let her know, just sort of give a heads up. And
Okay.
hey, by the way, this might be something interesting you might want to incorporate into part of your program.
Sounds great. Hey, yes, Casey.
And I wonder if, because of the, as Edward mentioned, the connection to France and Jefferson, if there might be possibilities of the private tours, or sometimes they'll take you to the second floor and show you the different windows, and
They
Yes.
take you to
there
the
might,
rotunda room.
Each of
French
our
art
tours that
history
I've done
room.
with the school has been unique. They've
Yeah.
taken us to areas where they don't normally take a lot of
Mhm.
people.
That's right. I
But
think that's
because of
great.
it only be about 4 or 5 people, there's a couple of places we can go with just 4 or 5 people that you can't go with 15.
Right.
So
That's a great idea.
we have some yes, Casey, we have some pretty good options.
Thanks for mentioning that. I'm going to skip over city school superintendent for now because that's going to be a little bit of a different can of worms to open up. And I'll reach out to Edward and Casey as and
Well,
Allison
if I
too.
may repeat, Allison is very adamant that
Yeah.
she be the person that
Yeah.
would make that
And
contact.
I will absolutely, of course, I will include her too.
And can I just say too, I guess the opportune time to mention this is that you all know this, like communication is going to be key. What we want to avoid, a little bit of what we experienced with the Wayway visit is maybe some lack of direction in some cases. And so individuals had started to pursue certain things, just based on what they assumed should be done.
Mhm.
Some cases we had to backtrack on that a little bit. So I would say to just establish like a clear set of directives so that we don't run into that problem this time around.
Okay, so if you have specific, if you have other sort of specific deep, if they're targeted or specific things, that you're thinking about, Max, that you want to, run by me, please feel free to send me an email. I don't want to make, like I said, this is my first rodeo with this. So, I don't want to, out of just, ignorance, make mistakes, by not communicating, not setting up the communication systems that need to be set up. So obviously, I think we'll be looking at co-sponsors for events, and there are already some potential co-sponsors in place for both the Sister Revolutions event at UVA. Benjamin is really working on creating co-sponsors for that. And co-sponsors, if we do actually have an opportunity to pull off this concert that Daniel Cinder, if he agrees to do it anyway, for some reason, he already is in conversation with St. Anne's Belfield about their performance hall and about St. Anne's Belfield being a co-sponsor because he said they're already working creatively to try and highlight this as a potential event that their students could attend. And if that were the case, they would make the venue available free. And they would also provide the technical assistance, and they might also provide assistance with hosting if there were some kind of a reception after the event. So, but maybe we may find that we need, other co-sponsors for things. And so I just thought we should be thinking about who are the logical folks to do that. And then, of course, contacts with the press. And Claire, I know that that's going to be your specialty, right? So making sure that, promotions and press releases are going out.
Right. And I think a lot of the press work is going to be very week. I mean, we can obviously draft the press release earlier, but a lot of the outreach is going to be like that week.
What's happening
because
that
they
week.
they don't plan. Unfortunately, they don't do long-term planning.
Yeah,
for
that's
these
okay.
the articles.
I want us to know kind of, like I said, absolutely, the timing of everything. I've tried to draft next a list of various on-site logistics. I think there's maybe things missing. Please let me know if you think so. These are all the possible logistical things that are going to have to be coordinated, and for which I think we're going to have to recruit some volunteers. And I'm hoping that you can really help me think through how to find, identify, and involve volunteers. I believe these visitors are going to fly into Washington. That is the most likely and probably the most cost effective for them. So right away, there'll be transportation needs getting them from Washington, D.C. to Charlottesville. I've already spoken with Max about that. We really need to see that we have volunteers to provide that transportation in their private vehicles. That cannot be done in city vehicles. At least 2 of the 3 have indicated that they would really love to stay with hosts and not in hotels while they're here. But the director of the academy from the rectorate, we don't know yet. So they may be looking to us, asking us if we would be able to assist with hotel lodging for one of the visitors. Transportation to and from events, that's a whole extra fleet of volunteers to pick the visitors up, or maybe if they're staying with hosts, those hosts obviously might want to be involved and they can help with that too. I do think we're going to have some interpreters and translators. And I thought specifically about requesting assistance if they were open from the Alliance Française for this. If that would be one way in which they might support this, or they might, dip into their membership to see if there are folks who'd be willing to. And the incentive would be, I think it's helpful to think about incentives. Like if if someone were willing to be a translator along with, the visit at the UVA for the day, then, does that person get invited to a dinner or a reception? We're going to want to think through photographers for documenting the visit and also documenting it on social media. So I know that means making sure that Murray is tapped and involved. Max reminded me that we should consider whether or not we want there to be a ceremonial gift from the city of Charlottesville, or from the commission, or from the mayor, that would be given, and I would see that would happen at whatever official reception we might host. And then any number of hosted meals, but Those are sort of open for discussion. And again, you know, I'm hoping that there might be additional opportunities for these visitors to meet and share meals with people from other stakeholders within the community, so that it's not the Sister City Commission that's having to organize all of those. But when we do decide what meals we would like to host or co-host, we're going to want to decide where we want those meals to happen and develop guest lists for them, and then the reception and the planning for that. So, and looking at that list, does anybody, again, feel like I've left something pretty critically important off that I can make a note of today?
I just have a question. Did, when the delegation came back in 2018, they, from the city, they paid for their own hotels. So, and I will be surprised that they can't do that. However, the one or two people did choose to stay with private citizens who made it available to them,
Yeah,
but the rest of them did stay in the residence inn downtown.
okay, that's helpful to know. Since it's the visitor from the rectorate who might not be so interested in staying with the private citizens, it might be that the rectorate will you know, cover that lodging expense. I mean, we'll pursue that when that piece
Yes.
gets a little bit more firm.
Yes.
Anybody else?
And I will talk with you offline about whether I would host someone or not, okay?
Okay. Yeah, Casey.
Regarding translators or interpreters, maybe reaching out to graduate students or people at UVA. People would probably love to take others around, especially if there's a lunch involved and they get to meet them and all of this.
Right.
So it's pretty common when visitors go to UVA. So for that day alone, or just in general too, there might be
Okay.
resources.
I'll reach out if you don't mind. I'll reach out to Janet Horn. Janet is the department head, the French department head,
Yeah.
and a good
Okay.
friend of mine. And she historically sets us up with a tour of the French house, but also with the professors there and several different events that they
Okay,
might
so
co-host.
before you do that, Edward, I'm going to send you. I need to talk with you about what Benjamin's already kind of
Okay,
proposing.
why don't
So
we
that
talk
we're not-
whenever you have a chance? Whenever you have a chance.
What about you, Kimberly? I saw your hand.
Yes, I had my hand up for a while. I was gonna respond to something you said earlier. Now I can't remember.
Oh, darn. Sorry.
That's okay. What was I gonna say? Oh, the transportation from the airport in DC, would they all ride together like in a van if we had someone to provide
I think so, yes.
transportation? Okay, and is there a budget at all to support something like that? If I
Well,
was
we have to come up with a budget.
okay,
I mean, that's one of the things we're gonna have to do, is we're gonna have to decide on a budget so that we can you know, petition the commission for a commitment, some kind of financial commitment. My goal would be, you know, to find as many in-kind, you know, donations, so to speak, as possible. Because I think, you know, the big costs are going to be meals, food, you know.
no, that's fine. I just wanted to know what the parameters were. Like, it's always my goal to try to get in kind first, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to know what the parameters were. And also, I was going to ask if this document will be available to us later so we can see exactly what is needed, or if you're willing to share another document of just what the needs are so we can work on it.
I'm happy, this document that I'm screen sharing with you now is kind of my working notes based on the agenda. I'll send it to all of you after the meeting today. I'll send you a copy. And then everybody can just kind of use that as a working copy, you know, to add things to, to make notes on.
Okay, because I have some thoughts initially
Good.
for some of the things that are needed, but I just wanted to know, I just want to make sure, number one, I don't forget what the need is, and then number two, if there are parameters, because I have someone in mind that they have a van and maybe they can pick them up, but I just wanted to know, like, are we able to pay for gas, or are we able to, or is that something we have to do?
Yeah,
So
I
I
don't,
just wanted to know.
Max, you may be able to answer those questions, like, is this anything that the commission,
Oh.
is there any element of transportation that the commission can cover costs for or not?
So when I had this discussion with Keena and briefly with the city attorney's office for the Wayway visit, there was concerns about liability when it came to like private citizens providing transportation, or us providing transportation for the delegates that were visiting. We may be able to figure out something if professional transportation was provided, but that's going to be a much larger expense, and so I
Yeah,
don't want to pursue that at all. When you and I spoke initially about the visit, I believe that you were going to follow up with Alliance Française to see if they may be able to offer some assistance in terms of, like, I guess the major transportation needs as far as getting from the airport to Charlottesville and then back to the airport. So I know you were going to explore that.
yeah. I'm sorry. I'm glad you remind me of that because I didn't remember that I was thinking about the Alliance as an opportunity for that. What I'm really have been thinking of since we talked is that there are probably any number of people who would come forward and would offer would volunteer to drive these visitors. I have no doubt that we'll find people who will volunteer to drive visitors around town to and from events. I think the big ask is going to be someone to go to Washington and get them and bring them back, and then someone to take them back to Washington. I could pursue, if I needed to, whether or not they would get themselves here, that whether or not we want to say that's on you. I know when the last delegation came, because I have some notes from that, they got themselves to Charlottesville, or at least the mayor got himself to Charlottesville. He took an extra flight. I don't think that's in the budget for these people. I don't think that, the sense I have is that times have changed and that the city will pay for their flight from France to the United States, but is not likely to pay for another flight, and then also for them to rent a car. And so I think we're going to have to work that out. And I thought I understood from you, and I apologize if I misunderstood, that it was preferable to have private citizens provide that transportation than it was to have that be, like what city vehicles, or have the city rent something. I thought I understood that's just really not a good idea.
The vehicles or having the city rent something isn't an option.
Is not an option. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I understand there's liability issues, and I don't know how to work around that. I mean, like if I myself have to go, I'll go, so.
To revisit that conversation with staff to see what options are available.
Okay. I do suspect they will all arrive on the same flight. I don't know that for sure because they're not that far in their planning process. But my assumption is that they'll all arrive on the same flight. And if that's the case, then we've got 3 people and their luggage to get here. And that would, of course, be easier than if they're coming in at different times. But that is going to necessitate, a vehicle that's big enough to accommodate, comfortably.
The only thing that I can come up with at this point that I think may be feasible is just professional services. I'm sure
Yeah.
that we'd be much more open to, signing off on that than.
Okay.
There are airport limousines available.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
So I was going to add another option in terms of reaching out to volunteers. I don't know if I maybe mentioned this before at a commission meeting when we were talking about setting up accounts and things like that, but there's a free website called Volunteer Match that you're
Okay.
able to place your volunteer event on the site, and people sign up for things they're interested in volunteering in. So, I mean, you can, sign up for a free account and put your event on there now. Like if you created an account today, you can say volunteers needed to host or escort people in April, or what have you, and then you can update it closer to the event or what have you. But that's the option for trying to corral volunteers.
And that can be done on a very local level, like just to,
Yeah, you put in your
You
it's
put in
geo-targeted.
the
So,
parameters.
you know,
Okay.
yeah, it's geo-targeted. So for where, if I'm in Charlottesville and I feel like, oh, I want to volunteer for something, let me look on Volunteer Match and see what volunteer opportunities are available for something that I want to do. Because I did that for another organization, and we got a decent amount of hits to support.
Okay. So what do the rest of the committee think about that as one volunteer recruitment strategy we should pursue?
I think it would be a great idea as a way of being able to direct volunteers to a central website where they can sign up, because otherwise it would just be like, oh, maybe Kimberly is the point of contact and everybody sends her emails. Whereas I think having a website, having something like this would be so much easier for coordinating. And I also do have to go in about 2 minutes. I have been taking notes, so
Thank you.
I will send those to you later.
Thank you so much, Claire. I hope that we can wrap this up in about 5 minutes, if that's all right.
Okay. The other thing that I was going to say is for Volunteer Match site, you can still vet the people because they sign up, and it doesn't mean they're automatically going to do it. You just have a pool of people to choose from where you can, vet them in your own manner.
Kimberly, is that something that you'd be willing to coordinate for us?
Sure.
And and Claire, is that something that you wanna tap into with Kimberly in terms of
Sure.
send the volunteers?
Yeah, that sounds great.
That'd be wonderful. And, I suppose we could start that. I would say maybe you tell me how, I think maybe the time to start that is January.
Well,
Right
we could
now,
set up a free account like right
you
away.
could set up the account
Just to
now,
have-
but we could put the call
Yeah.
out after the first of the year.
Sure.
Yeah, I like that idea. I also want to go ahead and ask everybody who's meeting with me tonight, just to think about your networks, people that you know who might love, be, who you think might be interested, who might be tapped to volunteer in some capacity. I think we're probably going to have to come up with a really big list of the volunteer tasks, which I see us doing, or me starting, or we're, coming up with a really big list of volunteer tasks. But I'm thinking, are there students even, at the high school in the French club, for example, who would love to help out with something if if we could find an appropriate way? Are there people that in your neighborhoods or in your professional organizations or just in your general sort of social networks who, are really like to volunteer and are dependable people? They don't necessarily have to speak French. They don't even have to like France, but we're just going to need a fleet. And so I just want to ask everybody to be thinking about who they know or who, kind of what their networks are, so that we can start developing a list of people who can be called upon to help.
One other thing, Elizabeth, is we probably shouldn't exclude the other commission members.
Oh, no, not at all.
As you kind of work through this process. So.
Absolutely. In fact, I don't mean to exclude anybody, but because I think Sylvia's going to have a stake. We need to talk with Sylvia also. Absolutely. I just wanted us to get going because I sort of see us as the, kind of the responsable, as they say in French, but I don't see leaving any other commission members out. And in fact, I even have started thinking about former commission members who I know have been to Besancon or who have been involved in projects who I think can be tapped and invited to circle back in if this is something they'd like to be part of, or at least can be invited to some of the events. Because I think part of what we want to do is, get some buzz going and have some crowds. So really quickly, because I know it's time for us to wrap up, I did have a couple of concerns that maybe we just think about. The Tom Tom Festival will be happening at the same time. I think we probably need to think about how that's going to affect things like hotel room availability and restaurant availability if we're trying to plan, to put someone up in a hotel. So that maybe we want to make some decisions sooner than later before we don't have a whole lot of options to choose from. There's the issue of a budget that we need to put together. How much do we feel we can ask the commission to spend? Do we need to look into raising money if that's, even a possibility? I think co-sponsors is the best way to raise some additional money. And then I just arbitrarily, without even checking with you, Max, arbitrarily, I came up with 4 additional committee meeting options because when I sat down and looked at the calendar, I realized, there's a lot to do. And if I don't go ahead and start thinking about when we might have our next committee meeting, I'm afraid I'll let too much time pass. So I just ask all of you to look at these. Max, I ask you to look at these. Thursdays seem to be a pretty easy day for people to meet, or Wednesday. So these are just some suggestions, but maybe each of you could take a look at these and signal to me, just direct me, direct message me or signal to me your availability. And Max, maybe you could look at the city calendar and let me know. I feel like we're probably going to have more contact the closer it gets. So I scheduled 2 meetings in March. I know it's a lot to ask of people, but, and maybe we'll find we don't need to because we're each doing our own thing and we're checking in, but I just wanted to have that options. I wanted to float those by you.
Okay.
Also, if there are people who you think we'd like to invite to be community members of this committee, that was one of the most illuminating things that Fred Blanton shared with us for me, was that a committee can include people not on the commission. And it's a way to involve more people. And also it's a way to be able to have committee meetings. Unless there are more than 2 commissioners present that don't have to be, where we don't have to go through, they don't have to be open to the public. They don't have to, but aside from that, I know we're all busy and we all have other responsibilities to the commission too. So I just wondered, I'd like to ask your thoughts about who might be some logical additional types of community members to add to the committee. And once you share your ideas with me, I'll put some feelers out. So what I'll do is I will follow up with an email and send all of you this more expanded agenda and just invite you to take some time to engage with it and make some notes on it and send it back to me. How does that sound? All right.
Pretty good. It is, but I think it's excellent that you're getting this head start with you're right, there's not a lot of time. We've got 3-4 months to make it happen. That's a luxury we did not have with Janango. We essentially had less than 3 weeks from the time they committed to come in and gave us the dates to be able to make it happen. But so I'm very glad to support in any way that I can to help make this happen.
Thank you, Edward.
And I think you got off to a great start.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I thank you all for, hanging in there with me for an hour at the end of the long day. So, so Max, will you look at these dates and maybe get back to me if you could sometime next week or as soon as you can about whether there are even options for you and or for us to get on the city's calendar so we just know whether we have to do something different?
Yes. Yep. I can do that.
Terrific. And yeah.
One other thing I wanted to mention is if the visit is set and ready to go, we know the dates and things like that, we should probably send an announcement to council as soon.
Okay. Yeah.
And
We don't have the date set because here's where we are in the process. I sent them the official letter Monday of this week. It's already on the mayor's desk in Besancon. I talked with Florent today and he was not able to tell me when he would expect to hear back, that she has said, yes, you have our blessing and we'll provide the funding. As soon as he has that, he will communicate to me. As soon as he has that, I'm going to ask him to begin deciding, looking at his travel arrangements and line up his flights and make sure I know if they're all coming on the same flight or not. And then we'll have the specific dates. One thing I did want to ask you all to think about is, the other thing I'm going to send you is just to play around with, is my sort of first pass at a potential itinerary. And if they arrive on Friday, then we'd be looking to have official delegation activities from my perspective, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, for sure. Wednesday is starting to feel like a lot of starting to feel like that is a lot of planning to do, but I think they may want to stay over an extra day. So the question would be, do we end our official delegation activities on Tuesday night and they have Wednesday to do what they want to with? Or do we try to, have there be some official kinds of delegation visit activities on Wednesday? So you'll see, I've created kind of a draft itinerary and I just want everybody to weigh in on how it looks, if that seems like too many days, not enough days, a good selection of things, not enough going on the weekends. Okay, so I want us to be able to tell him as soon as he knows that he's got the go-ahead, I want us to give him exact dates. I want us to say the official delegation visit, we're prepared to, we have an itinerary and we're going to cover the itinerary for your visit starting Saturday and ending whatever day.
Right.
And
I
if we,
missed that explanation at the start of the meeting, but yes, as soon as everything is confirmed, we at least want to get an announcement to council, and then develop an announcement that our communications department can send out as well.
okay, I got it. All right. So, any other questions or comments before I adjourn?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I really appreciate your time. So I'll just call the meeting adjourned at 10 after 6. And I'll get this information out to you and I look forward to hearing your thoughts.
All right.
And if I don't
Thank
see any of you,
you.
have a good holiday.
Okay, thank you.
All right, bye. Thanks, Max.
Thank you.